And that's often one of these eureka moments you have when you're looking at trace evidence. You find sort of the particle or something odd.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down the times serial killers were caught thanks to specific pieces of evidence that they unwittingly or even wittingly provided.
The crown jewel of the prosecution's case was this unique three-lobed green fiber found on both murder victims.
Number 10. Albert Fish's letters.
The concrete jungle of the city provided perfect camouflage for the gray man to hunt.
Albert Fish, a particularly notorious serial killer, sent a chilling letter to the Budd family, describing the gruesome murder of their daughter Grace Budd. The letter was filled with horrific details that only the killer would know. Investigators traced the emblem on the envelope to the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association, narrowing down their search to a rooming house where Fish had stayed.
We had a bargain. You promised that I could take your boy Timmy to the pictures. Why didn't you keep your promise?
Upon arrest, Fish initially denied any wrongdoing, but eventually confessed in graphic detail. This letter, combined with his confession and corroborative evidence from the crime scene, provided undeniable proof of his guilt. Fish, who had admitted to the killings of several other young people, was eventually found guilty and sentenced to death.
After finally capturing Fish, authorities learned the value of the old adage, appearances can be deceiving.
Number 9. Jack Unterweger's signature. This Austrian serial killer was initially convicted of murder in 1974, but released in 1990, believed to be reformed. However, a series of killings in Austria and the United States soon followed his release. Authorities noted similarities between the crimes in both countries, including the use of his signature knot and the targeting of sex workers.
And Jack Unterweger, who has always had such a particularly straight, present, slightly dominant posture.
This pattern was crucial in connecting the crimes. After fleeing to the U.S., Unterweger was eventually arrested in Miami in 1992. His trial in Austria included testimonies from experts on his unique modus operandi, leading to his conviction for multiple deaths.
Many details had come to light which made it so clear he was as guilty as sin.
Number 8. Andrei Chikatilo's blood type.
Walking between the gravestones of a small public cemetery, Chikatilo brought them to the site of a shallow, unmarked grave.
The Rostov Ripper committed a series of brutal murders in the Soviet Union from the late 1970s to the early 1990s. Initially, blood type analysis from semen samples suggested a different blood type from the one found at crime scenes, which misled investigators for years. This discrepancy arose because Chikatilo was a non-secretor, meaning his blood type could only be determined from a blood sample, not from other bodily fluids like semen.
That in itself was an example of the failures of Soviet science and of Soviet production capability.
When he was finally arrested in 1990, further DNA analysis confirmed that his semen type AB matched the evidence from the crime scenes, while his blood type was A. This, along with his detailed confession, led to his being convicted for 52 murders and his eventual execution in 1994.
Born impotent, Chikatilo claimed to be cursed by a lifetime of sexual frustration that had eventually driven him to murder.
Number 7. Richard Ramirez's shoe print.
I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world. And in a wicked world, wicked people are born.
Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, terrorized Southern California in the mid-1980s with a spree of home invasions and brutal murders. A crucial breakthrough came when investigators found a unique Avia shoe print at multiple crime scenes. This rare type of sneaker, with a distinct tread pattern, was traced back to a limited number of sales, linking Ramirez to the deaths.
So it was the Avia?
The Avia sneaker, which later became controversial when Dianne Feinstein revealed the existence of the evidence.
That was mind-blowing.
In addition to the shoe print, eyewitness descriptions and composite sketches helped narrow down the suspect. When Ramirez was finally apprehended in 1985, the shoe print evidence played a pivotal role in putting him away. He was found guilty of 13 killings and received a death sentence.
And the jury, having previously to wit on October 4th, 1989, found that the penalty shall be death.
Number 6. Dennis Rader's floppy disk.
A local news station receives yet another package from the BTK killer. Inside it, the item police had been hoping for, a computer disk.
Infamously known as the BTK killer, Rader evaded capture for decades. In 2004, he reignited his correspondence with the media and law enforcement, taunting them with details of his crimes. In one such communication, Rader asked if a floppy disk could be traced back to him. The police misleadingly assured him it could not.
The software is registered to a specific user. In a matter of seconds, Detective Stone pulls up that name, as well as information on the author of the note itself.
Rader sent a floppy disk to a local news station, which investigators quickly traced to a computer at Christ Lutheran Church, where Rader was president of the church council. This digital evidence led to his arrest in 2005. Combined with DNA evidence, Rader was convicted of 10 murders and sentenced to multiple life terms in prison.
Since March of this year, BTK has sent numerous communications to the media and to the police. In these letters, he has provided certain background information which he claims is accurate.
Number 5. Wayne Williams Fibers. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Atlanta was gripped by a series of murders of young African Americans. The breakthrough in this horrific case came from meticulous fiber analysis. Carpet fibers and dog hairs found on several victims matched those in Wayne Williams' home and car. Additionally, fibers from his bedspread and car trunk were consistent with those found on multiple victims.
Peterson realized they were seeing one green carpet fiber with a unique shape. This is a cross-section of that fiber, magnified many times.
When Williams was arrested in 1981, he was initially charged with killing 2 adults. The fiber evidence, combined with other circumstantial evidence, linked him to numerous murders of youths. He was found guilty and received life in prison.
How does one person have this whole combination of fibers? What would be a reasonable explanation?
Number 4. Gary Ridgway's DNA.
They took a swab of his, had him chew on a piece of gauze, which was ultimately his coup de grace.
The Green River Killer was responsible for the deaths of at least 49 women in the 1980s and 1990s. The case remained unsolved for many years until DNA technology significantly advanced. In 2001, detectives revisited the evidence using more sensitive testing methods.
We had limited sperm come off those sticks, but enough to generate a male profile from 2 of the victims.
Samples taken from the victims were matched to Ridgeway, whose DNA had been collected in an unrelated arrest in 1987. This conclusive genetic evidence led to his arrest and subsequent confession to numerous crimes. Ridgeway was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, bringing closure to one of the most prolonged serial killer investigations in U.S. history.
Jim Doyen and I got out, and I told him he's under arrest for the murder of several women in King County.
Number 3. Ted Bundy's bite mark.
This is an enlarged photograph of the defendant's teeth.
Dr. Richard Souveron, a Miami forensic odontologist, showed the pictures of the teeth of the defendant Theodore Bundy and the bite mark found on the body of one of the slain co-eds.
One of America's most infamous serial killers, Ted Bundy was linked to murders across several states in the 1970s. His capture and conviction were significantly aided by forensic odontology. During the trial for the death of Lisa Levy, a crucial piece of evidence was a bite mark on Levy's body.
I find it absurd to ask for mercy for something that I did not do.
And a forensic odontologist matched the bite mark to Bundy's dental impressions. This evidence, along with eyewitness testimony and other forensic links, led to Bundy's facing justice. The infamous killer was sentenced to death and executed in 1989.
You think about getting out of here?
Well, legally, sure.
Number 2. David Berkowitz's parking ticket.
Police transported David Berkowitz from headquarters to Brooklyn Central Booking. After my sources say he confessed to being the 44 killer.
The son of Sam terrorized New York City in the mid-1970s with a series of random shootings. His capture came about due to a simple parking ticket. On the night of his last crime in 1977, a witness noticed a suspicious figure near the scene. The police traced a parking ticket issued to a car parked illegally near a fire hydrant. The car was registered to Berkowitz.
Of the 4 tickets issued in that area, one bore the name of David Berkowitz, a resident of Yonkers, New York.
When police searched his vehicle, they found a rifle and a note threatening further violence. Berkowitz confessed to the killings, claiming he was commanded by a demon. He was sentenced to life in prison, ending his deadly spree.
I thought I had a future, you know, and then everything just flipped around. I didn't think I'd ever end up in a place like this.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Edmund Kemper's confession.
One group of serial killers will never like to talk about their offending behavior at all, whereas the second group of serial killers are desperate to talk about their killing.
A serial killer active in the early 1970s, Kemper targeted young women and his own family members. Standing at a towering 6'9", Kemper was known for his intelligence and chilling demeanor. The exact evidence that led to his eventual capture was extremely unusual for serial killers. He turned himself in.
That's the first time in my career, and I've been in this business 43 years, that, the suspect left the cops a note.
After killing his mother and her friend, Kemper called the police from Colorado, confessing to the murders and providing details only the killer would know. This voluntary confession led to his arrest. Kemper's detailed accounts of his crimes, corroborated by physical evidence, resulted in his conviction. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
If there's one thing I know, it's this. A mother should not scorn her own son. If a woman humiliates her little boy, he will become hostile and violent and debased. Period.
What other examples of killers being caught by a singular piece of evidence could have been featured on this list? Let us know in the comments. Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.